Every organization has its constraints or challenges, whether that's people, funding, tooling, support, or whatever. But it's important to start somewhere. So, how can I send you into this OSPO journey without letting you know some of the challenges that you might face? So, budget is one of the biggest barriers and the one people bring up the most, but it doesn't have to be. So, unfortunately, most times budget for starting an OSPO isn't really a top down directive, though it does happen sometimes. So, what does an OSPO need budget for? Most often, it's for people, so OSPO headcount, tools for scanning. It could also be budget for travel to conferences, meetups, workshops. Other times, this might come down to business priorities. For most larger or legacy companies, it might be more difficult to be agile with this effort. In other words, despite your best presentations, the business may still push back on timing. For example, you might be allowed to get started with awareness and soliciting feedback, but you may not be able to hire anyone until the next fiscal year. And then tooling may be another fiscal year behind that. So, what can you do? You want to promote the benefits and value that an OSPO can bring. So, if that's not working, you might need to be a bit more creative with this, like creating a sense of urgency around the risks. I don't like to use the word fear because that word generates a whole bunch of negative associations. But what are some of the items to create this sense of urgency? So, license compliance lawsuits, there are plenty. New SBOM requirements from your customer if you're part of a software supply chain, unknown use of vulnerable open source, intellectual property concerns with some open source licenses. There's others, but I think you get the idea. So, who can you talk to in your organization? I'd recommend you speak to someone in legal. Sometimes they have access to different audiences and can make a different kind of argument for why this is important. Same with security. As we discussed earlier, there are risks associated with unmanaged open source that could cause some security professionals to stay up at night. Engineering might be interested in a new regulatory requirement from a customer regarding these SBOMs. But these are just some ideas just to get you started. Your trusted partner